They arrived just in time.
Get
the
him!
hairy guy and Margot were almost all packed up and were heading out to an old
no, you
beat-up car,
don't! Stop! Who are you people? G'day, mate. It's your boy Laserbeam here, coming from Australia, down under. Mate, bloody legend I am, and here I am ready to react to another animation from my story animated in it. Sorry, Laserbeam's actually my friend. At least we met and we follow each other on Twitter, and so he knows who I am. I don't know what I'm saying. All I'm saying is I'm about to be Canada's Laserbeam, you guys. If you want me to be Canada's Laserbeam, hey, just hit the, you know the drill. My story animated. You know the drill. You know the drill. If you don't know the drill, then you've got like 5 other videos to watch. I've been texting the wrong person for 10 years. That's a decade, ladies and gentlemen. 10 years. I haven't even known anyone for 10 years, besides my parents. Can you imagine texting the wrong mom for 10 years? That would be pretty sad. That'd be pretty messed up. I have no idea what's gonna happen in this. I don't watch anything before I react to it. In case you were wondering, I had someone accuse me of this the other day. I do not watch anything before I react to it. I know a lot of people who they watch everything ahead of time. Not gonna say names. I genuinely have no idea what I'm getting myself into when I do this. So here we go, friends. Story begins. 3, 2, 1, go!
When I moved away from home, I promised my family it would just be for 1 year. Then I'd be back. Pretty soon, though, 1 year turned into 10 years.
These are starting so quickly. Why? These are starting so quickly. Who are you? Why did you move? What's your name? Why'd you move away?
And I think my family gave up all hope that I'd ever return. Obviously, we grew apart during that time, but I still—
What is your name? Who is she? We better get a name. I do not do well with not knowing people's names. If you couldn't tell.
I still sent them half my salary every single month. And we spoke on the phone when we could. Usually they'd send me excited voices notes when they received—
There is one innocent F word that turns a woman on and makes her start to chase you. Do you know what it is?
No. Follow RobertIDK on Instagram. All right, I'm sorry, you guys, I got an ad. Okay, I don't know why she's sending the money. I don't know why she calls them voices notes instead of voice notes, but you know, we've got a lot to learn, apparently.
Usually they'd send me excited voices notes when they received my money, but a few months passed where I didn't hear a peep from them. Just the occasional thumbs up emoji. I started to get worried and decided to fly home and surprise them. It was long overdue.
Oh yeah, I'm home, America, yeah!
You see, I'd been working as a maid for a super rich family, and not once had they let me take a holiday. I lied and told them that my dad was sick and that I needed to rush home. For all I knew, that could even be true. I expected them to tell me to go straight away, but instead they told me I couldn't leave, and that if I dared to, they'd fire me. So I got fired.
Who the heck? Who the heck are any of these people? This is the most convoluted beginning to a My Story animated I have experienced so far. This started way too fast. I don't know this woman's name. How are you gonna be this blonde in your 50s? We found 2 human beings who remained fully blonde into their 50s. I was blonde as a child. A lot of you kids who are blonde right now, if you're really young and you're blonde, it might not always be that way. I was blonde. I had beautiful blonde hair. Then that turned sandy blonde. Then it turned dirty blonde. Then it turned light brown. Then it turned brown. I'm just kidding. I prefer my hair this color.
They gave me 1 hour to pack up all my stuff, say bye to the kids, and get out. I couldn't believe it. After everything I'd done for them, well, now I was even more excited to get home to my family, who loved me dearly. I used up the last of my savings to buy the plane ticket, but I knew once I got home I could live with my parents and they would take care of me, just like I'd taken care of them for all these years. Except when the taxi pulled up outside my parents' address, something didn't seem right.
It's the wrong people. She's been texting the wrong people for 10 years! Even though she's only been away for 1 year though, so it can't be that.
Pretty soon though, 1 year turned into 10 years.
But the parents sending the thumbs up instead of the, hey, thanks for the half your salary, little bit fishy, is all I'm saying.
My dad loved gardening, but the garden looked like a wreck. Panic shot through my body. Something must have happened to him. I ignored the mess and rushed to the front door and started knocking. I knew no one was in because the house was in darkness. I decided to just try the door in the hope that it would open, and wow, it actually was.
This is spooky. This is spooky, you guys. I'm not ready. It's gonna get spooky real quick. Don't worry, I'll add some spooky music because I want you to suffer with me. If I'm spooked, you gotta be spooked. Or maybe it'll be nothing. Maybe there will be a super happy, nice clown on the inside, which wouldn't be horrifying at all.
I hoped that it would open, and wow, it actually was.
Wait. Another classic example of bad grammar with My Story Animated.
I decided to just try the door in the hope that it would open, and wow, it actually was.
I hoped that it would open, but wow, it actually was. I hoped it would open, and it was. Thanks, guys. I'm here all week. I can proofread your stories, you guys. No offense. I love you guys, My Story Animated. I love you. But if you want, I can proofread your stories before you before you finish them.
It smelled like someone had died in there. I covered my nose and ran into the other 2 rooms in the house, but the place was deserted. Then I heard a shuffling sound, and my heart froze. My parents were still here after all.
No! Oh my God!
I turned around and said, "Surprise, I'm home!" Except instead of seeing my parents standing there, I was face to face with a huge, hairy guy, and he looked more shocked than me.
Oh my gosh! Holy cow! I did not enjoy that that figure fading in. That was scary. Now you're gonna go all kawaii desu anime on me after spooking me like that?
I screamed and asked what he was doing in my house. And before I could say anything more, he started running. "Hey, I'll call the police!" I screamed. And that got him. He stopped running and came back up the path. Then he laughed and said, "Ain't nobody lived here in months, sweetie. I moved in when I saw the place was deserted. Finders keepers, right?" I couldn't believe it. Where were my parents?
Okay, the parents. They got jobs at Hogwarts. Hagrid came in and he was like, "You're a wizard, parents." And then he sent them to Hogwarts. They had to go that night because that's how it works apparently. And they left their phone there. Homeless dude comes in, grabs the phone. He doesn't know English, so he just starts sending the thumbs up and taking that do-re-mi, baby.
I had a really bad feeling. Had they just abandoned me?
Demons.
I looked around the room and noticed there were some envelopes lying on the table.
Money.
They had my handwriting on them, and they were empty. The guy saw me looking at them and said someone had been sending money to the house, and how sweet it was of them. This couldn't be happening. I had to get to the police. My parents could be in danger.
Or worse, expelled.
Or worse, they could be dead. The guy said he had to go run an errand, and I don't know why, but I decided to look around just to make sure my parents weren't tied up somewhere.
Yo.
Clearly, I'd been watching too many horror movies.
No, are you kidding me? Too many horror Look at this place! Yeah, so my parents, I haven't heard from them in months. I turn up at their house. It's deserted. The place is totally messed up. Smells like someone's died. But no, I just been watching too many scary movies. It's nothing. I was watching too many scary movies. I knew I shouldn't watch Twilight after 10 p.m. I'm just being silly. This is normal. No, it's not!
The place was filthy, but seeing as I'd spent the last 10 years as a maid, I got to work and started cleaning the place. Hours later, the guy came back, and as soon as he was inside, I asked him what he knew. He said he'd never even seen my parents, and that this place had been empty when he moved in. I didn't believe him at all. He looked scared and pulled out his phone to call
the random changes in drawing style.
Hey, that's my dad's phone.
He's homeless and he has a phone?
He looked at me and said, well, it was here when I moved in, so I just sort of claimed it. But I didn't understand. Why had he been replying to me then? I asked him about the thumbs up emojis, and he said he was just being polite. And then he said, "Oh, so you're Anna then. Thanks for the money, doll."
Anna, sick, thanks Anna. 3 minutes and 50 seconds in, and I just now learned your name. And like 8 or 9 minutes into the RobertIDK video, because this Robert boy, he sure does love to talk and make these stories take longer than they need to. I'm sorry, but hey, next time you watch an 18-minute RobertIDK video and you're like, "It's over already, what the I wish I talked for 2 minutes longer." Then you'll wish that I talked for 2 minutes longer.
You've been a real help. We call you Anna the Angel around here. Very sweet of you. This was too much. I tried calling my mom's number and suddenly I heard a phone ringing. "Oh, I didn't think Margot was here," the hairy guy said. Then he dug around in a sleeping bag and pulled out my mom's phone. I gave up. I'd just have to go to the police. I was too scared to call them in front of this guy.
Oh my gosh, she's been feeding the entire homeless community not for 10 years. I still don't know where this came from.
Pretty soon though, 1 year turned into 10 years. But seeing as I'd spent the last 10 years as a maid.
But for a while now, maybe 10 dog years. Maybe that's how long it's been going on for.
So I told him I'd go try to find my parents and I'd pop back around soon. I ran out of there with my suitcase, and then I called the police, who said they'd be right over. I decided I'd go speak to the neighbors in the meantime, see if anyone remembered me.
Okay, so her house is nice now, so hopefully this has a happy ending. We're gonna find out.
And could tell me anything about my parents. But there was no one around. In fact, it looked like a ghost street. Had everyone
Ghost
just
street.
moved out? I remembered my parents had mentioned they might move because there were rumors all the houses here were going to be torn down. Well, maybe that was what had happened. Maybe they'd just moved? The police arrived 30 minutes later, and they went into the house to have a word with the hairy guy. After a while, they came back out and said this whole neighborhood was due to be torn down any week now.
So the rumors were true. I have nothing else to say, so I don't know why I set this up like I was gonna give a speech, but they were right. So maybe I don't think they moved though. I think Hagrid came. I still think that's the most plausible explanation. It's the only logical explanation.
But it's my house, I said. The policeman looked bored and said I could come down to the station and file a proper report.
You can come down to the station if you want.
The whole time I was freaking out though. Why wouldn't my parents tell me if they moved? This made no sense.
Hagrid.
When we got to the station, I told them my name. They typed something into their computer and looked up at me confused. Sorry, ma'am, but it says here you live abroad? Duh, but I was back now, and I didn't have time for this.
Sure, I don't have time for this. I need to get my money, and I need to get my parents. I haven't seen my parents in 6 seasons. My parents are the only ones who know where my Yu-Gi-Oh cards are. I need to get my parents to go to the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament.
I asked them to at least help me find my parents, and when I gave their names, they said they'd left the country a couple of months ago, and therefore they couldn't help me. I made quite a scene, and eventually they asked me to leave or they'd have to call the chief police.
Yeah, hey, you better get out of here. We're gonna call the police. Don't make me call the cops on you. I know my rights. Can you imagine? What? Dude, you are a police officer. You don't need to call anyone. The cell is right there. Just take her to the holding cell. You can do that. Hey, if you don't stop, I'll call my dad.
I'd been gone so long, I didn't know what to do. My parents could be anywhere by now. And why hadn't they told me they were going traveling? I felt kind of annoyed. They should have been using the money I sent to look after the house, not go traveling. No wonder the house looked horrible. I walked the streets for a bit before finding a little cafe. I was starving and exhausted, so I flopped into a seat by the window and just ordered coffee after coffee while I tried to figure out what to do.
Bad idea. I don't know how many of you guys are drinking coffee. I can't recommend enough. If you drink coffee, don't drink more than a mug in a day. It's a bad time, anxiety through the roof. I've had some bad experiences. I can drink like a bit of coffee and be fine, and then I just have like 1 sip too many, and I am freaking out for the rest of the day. I am a nervous wreck. I can't focus on anything. Coffee's dangerous, you guys. Don't act like coffee's no biggie. 4 mugs? Really? 4 mugs, Anna? Great idea. That's not responsible behavior.
Eventually, the manager came over to me and said they were closing soon. I drank up and was getting ready to leave when I heard someone screaming. I looked outside and there was an old woman by the window, staring and pointing at me. I quickly went out to see if she was okay, and she started praying and shaking her head. The ghost of Anna is here. Oh Lord, why?
What the heck? She's dead. She's been dead the whole time. Bruce Willis ain't got nothing on this girl. 10 years. Okay, this is where the 10 years comes in. She's been dead for 10 years. I have no idea. This is the hardest one to guess so far. I don't know what the heck is going on. This is some craziness. I was not prepared. I'm never prepared. The titles always give you like 10% of the story. If you offered me $1 million to read this title and guess what the story was about, I wouldn't be able to do it. Yeah, I could spend all day making guesses and I would not come up with this. That's where they get you, my friends. My Story Animated, you're too good.
And then I recognized her. It was my grandma's best friend. My grandma had died when I was little, so we'd lost touch with her over the years. I tried to calm her down and told her I wasn't a ghost, that I was alive and I needed her help. We found a nearby bench and she was honestly shaking. I told her I'd been living abroad and had just come home because I hadn't heard from my parents in ages. She then told me that she'd seen my parents about 2 months ago and they'd been hysterical, saying I died. So they'd left to go and collect my body.
Oh
She
my
said
gosh!
no one had-
They've been texting the wrong person for 10 years. She hasn't been texting the wrong person. The parents have. Actually, that doesn't make any sense either.
She said no one had seen or heard from them since, but that there had been a rumor going around that they decided to stay abroad because they were too sad to come home without me. This was crazy. I was clearly alive. Why would my parents think I died?
Because you've been texting the wrong
Why
person.
did they think I was dead when I was messaging them this whole time? I asked her. And the old lady looked at me and said, "Your boss sent a letter to them saying that there had been some kind of accident and you sadly passed away."
Yo! That blonde evil dad. Never trust a 50-year-old man with perfect blonde hair. Actually, that's kind of mean, but it's a pretty rare thing, you know? I don't even know, I don't know if it's possible to naturally have perfect blonde hair when you're 50. 50-year-old man, perfect blonde hair. Okay, not 50, not blonde. Yeah, see, you're not gonna find it, guys. It's not gonna happen. I don't know what this is. I'm not sure if I believe this. This looks dyed to me, or photoshopped. This doesn't look legit. This, you gotta be kidding me. You can see the natural gray on the sides here. That's some malarkey, I don't believe that. This is some blonde hair, although there's like 3 of them left. I'm just saying, there's something going on here.
No, why would my boss do that? I mean, he didn't.
It's the blonde hair, you guys.
He wasn't cruel. I didn't get it. I needed to call my boss and ask him about this. He didn't pick up though. I tried dozens of times, but he just ignored me. What did I expect? He'd fired me. Suddenly, things started to make more sense. The way my boss had been so quick to fire me and told me not to bother coming back. Why had I let him treat me like that? But to tell my parents I died? That was too much. He could go to prison for this. I left the old lady and ran back to the police station. I told them the whole story and then I gave them my boss's number and asked if they could call him to see if my parents had been in touch with him. They could see I was getting frantic and finally they started to take me seriously. The chief assured me that they
What the heck? Just holding the paper, freaking out. We have to figure out what happened to the parents. George, have you seen this? No wonder these police officers don't get anything done. They're incompetent. Oh, that's how you know he's the chief, because he's got that 5 o'clock shadow. He's too busy to shave. He stays up until 5 a.m. solving cases. That's how you know this dude's legit.
And then I gave them my number and hurried back to my parents' house. I wanted to ask the hairy guy some more questions.
That was Hagrid. It's all finally coming together now.
As I ran home, I couldn't stop thinking about my boss. How could he do this? My poor parents. From a distance, I noticed the hairy guy was sitting outside with a woman who I assumed was Margot. Luckily, it was dark by then, so I managed to walk along without being seen. They were chatting quite loudly, and what they said shook me to my core. To be honest, I ain't sure she believed what I was saying about us being squatters. What if she figures out her parents left the country because they thought she died? We need to get on the run again.
Wait, they know? Who are you people? Is this a wig, or do you look like a scraggly homeless man squatter, as they say? What, guys, my brain is failing me here. This is the weirdest story I have done on this. And that's saying a lot. We've looked at some pretty weird stories. This, I'm struggling to follow. I'm struggling to make predictions. If it ain't Hogwarts, I can't tell you.
Maybe we can try our luck again in the next town. Then Margot laughed and said, I can't believe they fell for it. It was too easy, wasn't it? Let's just pack up quickly and get out of here before the police get onto us. I couldn't believe it. So they'd done this. Not my boss. They were criminals.
Ah! Yos, don't jump scare me like that. Don't do that. My Story Animated has this way of just changing the way someone's face looks at the most intense part, and it always scares me. I hate it. Okay, I know you're gonna think I'm lame. These are like the most kawaii faces in the world. but I'm into it, okay? I'm invested.
I was too scared to confront them, so I quickly called the police and asked them to come to my parents' address. They arrived just in time. The hairy guy
Get 'em!
and Margot were almost all packed up and were heading out to an
Oh
old
no, you
beat-up car,
don't!
which
Don't mess with my Anna ever again. Don't talk to me or my son ever again. You don't want that to happen to you. That was tiring.
Well, they didn't make it any further than the garden path before the police arrested them. They'd called my old boss, and of course he'd known nothing about this and hadn't seen my parents. I needed to find them. But before that, I got to watch the police arrest the hairy guy and that Margot woman. They kept shouting at me, but I just stood there, grinning. I hope they got locked up for the rest of their lives. I wanted to beat myself up over the fact that I left to surprise my parents. But at the same time, thank God I did, because otherwise, who knows what those criminals would have done next. As it turns out, my parents weren't their first victims. They'd done this to 3 other families.
Oh my gosh, this is insane! All of this came from the title. I've been texting the wrong person for 10 years. You know, I don't know how it happens, but it seems innocent enough. Texting. Not stealing your house, sending your parents across the world, convincing them you died. I thought it was just texting. My story animated. You've done it again.
Well, I'd put an end to that. And it didn't take long to track down my parents. Once the police here alerted the police over there, they managed to find them. They were staying in some kind of homeless shelter because they'd run out of money and couldn't afford to fly home. When I called them, they didn't believe it was me. They just kept screaming, and I told them I was safe at home and that I was going to buy their ticket so they could come back. I have never been more happy to see my parents in my entire life. When I saw them walking through the arrivals gate, I just broke down into tears. I thought I'd been through hell.
That's sweet. Aw, how sweet is that? See, here's the thing. If you live with your parents and you've never lived away from your parents, it can be like you can get used to it, you know? When you haven't seen your parents in a long time and you see them again, it warms the heart, makes you cry, makes you shed a tear. It's an emotional experience, is all I'm saying. I'm going insane. Let's finish this. Let's finish this story so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give myself a system reboot, and you will see a new Robert on the next video, because I'm losing my marbles. This one, I was not prepared for this one.
I thought I'd been through hell, but from the looks of them, who'd thought they'd lost their daughter, they looked completely broken. It was a pretty emotional reunion, and not what I'd expected when I'd flown back 2 days before. They filled me in on all the details, how their house had been robbed, all their money and phones gone, and a day later how they'd received a letter saying I died. They'd even had to borrow money to fly to bring my body back. What a crazy twist of events. But at least we're all alive and finally back in the same place again. I don't plan on leaving them ever again.
You're gonna live with your parents until you're 80? Never again.
I don't plan on leaving them ever again.
You're... This happened, so I've learned my lesson. I'm gonna live with my parents until I'm 60. That's the right solution, Anna. You that's the way to do it. Oh my gosh, what a turn of events, she says. Twist of events. You're telling me, Anna, you're telling me. This was insane. Is there anything else to say? I don't think so. So all I'm gonna say is I hope you enjoyed. Go watch another video. I'll see you there, and I will have more brain cells in that video, as always. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and have a good one.